Well, I think one of the things that's most important for anybody to do when they approach the question of electronic records, digital information, is they need to be able to work with the materials. We would never expect an archivist to pass off the somewhat grunt work, the routine work of sorting paper folders to someone else because they don't have the time or patience or willingness to learn how to alphabetize. We learned basic skills to work with physical materials, physical records, and we now need to have the equivalent skills to work with electronic records. And I appreciate that many people are either a bit put off by technology, some may be a bit phobic, and it's also at times just very alien and very different. But we've got to learn it. I think it's our professional responsibility, and in fact, as you get in, it can be very interesting. And there's ways you can do this, and I think if I were to give anyone advice about how to start would be just that, start. There's no particularly good place to start. There's no particularly bad place to start. Pick up a book that introduces even something as simple as web markup. Start learning some tools that you haven't used before. You may have always used something like a commercial word processor like Word or WordPerfect. Pick up a plain text editor and see what you can do with that. So pick up a book. There's lots of resources on the web. One of the best things for me was to take a community college course in programming. I'd actually been programming on an amateur level for some time, but to actually sit in on an evening course at a community college introduced me to tools and gave me a very strong foundation that I could grow on greatly from there. So I think a community college is a great place to do things like that. In addition to books, there's webinars that you can do. So I think the ability to begin to understand the structure of electronic records is very important. That means appreciating that they're a series of zeros and ones. And over the last 20 or 30 years, that complexity has been hidden from us. When I bought my first computer, it was a piece of metal and it didn't do anything until I installed the operating system. Now you go to the store, the operating system is pre-installed. You don't even think about that. When I first had to connect a network device, it was a day-long adventure, and now you just click on a little icon. So that's a good thing that the complexity has been hidden for consumers, but as information managers, I think it's really important that we know what's going on under the hood so that we really understand the nature of the materials we're working with. The analogy is with paper records, we come into the profession knowing how to read, knowing the concept of what some of the basic genres and formats are, like correspondence and diaries. Now it's incumbent on us to start thinking about those equivalents in the digital era. So instead of worrying about paleography, we now are looking at document encoding and character sets, and that's particularly important as we move from the ASCII character set to Unicode. What are the ramifications for that? Ultimately, I think one of the most important things is to ask yourself the role of appraisal in all of this, because it's all very complicated and we can all do it in some ideal fashion, but appraisal drives every decision. So do you need to worry about some of these very sophisticated concepts of integrity and authenticity? And the answer on one level is yes, but not to the same level for all types of records. So the ability to make an informed appraisal decision, informed decisions about how to process a collection, means you need to understand the nature of the materials you're working with. So my advice is dive in and take some easy courses, read a book, and teach yourself, and don't be afraid. Just dive into the deep end.